So, yeah, let's do it, man. I had a patient come in the other day, like I told you, and you know, I've been on those for about a year now. I was having difficulty even lifting her 1-year-old grandbaby, and this is something that's just been coming on. You know, she also noticed like even going up and down steps, and just fatigue, and she's she's cutting back on it, but she has the difficulty.
She wants to stay on it though.
No, yeah, I know. That's the thing. See, that's what I'm saying. That's why we're doing this, because they don't know that there's, here's another option, right?
How much weight did she lose on it so far?
Oh, I don't know. She probably lost 50 pounds easily. It's my sister-in-law.
She wants more than that.
Huh? Well, I know. That's what I'm saying. But it's an addiction thing, dude.
Yeah.
They're afraid it's going to bust back on them and come back, which it might. Because what they're doing is they just don't eat. They haven't changed their eating habits per se.
Yes, they just haven't.
Just the frequency of what they're consuming hasn't changed.
There's a guy he's like a famous podcast guy. I think his name's James Smith something, but he's a personal trainer or whatever. And he took it just because he wanted to know what other people were experiencing when they took it. And so he took it for like 1 month. And he said that he's from Australia, lives there, and they have, like meals to go or whatever, like meal prepped meals. And he said like he can eat one of those very easily. They're not that big. He said, but when he was taking the Ozempic, he didn't feel anything at all, but he noticed that he felt like super full off of eating, like half.
Well, good.
Like he was like,
and we can mention that. You can mention that. Let me still return this one. Okay, no problem. I am in a podcast right now and should be finished up by around 10. I will get a hold of you around that time and we'll meet up. I'm going to say ballpark 11, but I'll get back with you. Talk to you then, Alicia. Okay. So, all right, that's patient line. Yeah. So, so he just said he just wasn't hungry, right?
Yeah, he ate like half of it, which was probably like, 7 bites.
And then he
was
full.
Super full. And this guy's like, he's muscular, works out, fit.
So he didn't really want to do that then. He didn't want to lose that, right?
No,
after that, he was like, "Wow."
But yeah, he said he took it for 1 month just to see.
A month?
Yeah.
How much did he lose?
I don't know.
Mm-hmm. Well, that's why I said when I went down to Costa Rica with my buddy, in the morning he had 2 eggs and they were fried and he ate the yolk out of them basically, and then he did not eat again until he had 1 lobster tail at about 8 o'clock at night.
Oh, and he was on it?
Yeah. And again, not looking like we talked about too good either.
Dude, if one of my buddies took that, I would make fun of them every day until they stopped. I would make fun of them.
See, that's why he kind of hid himself from me. He's a doctor as well, and he was asking me my opinion, and I kind of told him, what we're talking about, like here.
And he was
like,
lazy.
Okay,
how can you call yourself a man?
Well, exactly. But when another thing too that I find too, sadly but true, a lot of this is people who drink a lot, and
they don't want to stop drinking.
They don't want to give up that drinking. But they don't want the weight. They don't want the weight gain, even though the liver's still. The liver's still like, hey, man, I'm out of here. It's running down the neighborhood with that little red polka dotted bandana with the pancreas in it. Gone, right?
Well, I told my buddy that.
I'm out of here.
Fidel's son, Adrian, I told him we were like walking off the field from our game, and I was like, I'm so fat, dude. I'm out of shape. And he's like, no, I'm fat and out of shape. I said, at least you still drink and you have an excuse. I was like, I have no excuse to not be in perfect shape.
Well, that's your excuse not to go back on it. Yeah. All right, let's get going on this one. What do you think? Chief Boss Man, you ready to roll?
Let's roll.
Oh, okay. Sorry. All right. Welcome, everybody, to another episode of Flip the Script. And I'm here with Cameron and our good buddy, the man who runs the show, Chris. I'm Dr. J. Joey, and we're going to talk today semaglutides, our GLP-1 like proteins. The GLP, of course, for the glucagon-like protein are peptides that are kind of, they're everywhere now, right? The magic potion for weight loss today. So we want to kind of like enlighten on some alternatives, some natural approaches, as you will, because as you're going to hear in this podcast today, there's some pretty scary side effects, and some of my patients, I've experienced this and come to me and go, okay, what else can I do? So that's kind of what we're going to hopefully enlighten with today. Glucagon. It's a hormone released by the pancreas, right there with insulin. Okay, think of it as an antagonist to insulin, if you will. When we raise the glucagon levels, we secrete it. We're going to shut down the insulin. And like I've mentioned in my first book, Light Your Fire, anything that we can do to reduce insulin is going to increase the lifespan of our cells and any other species on this planet. Yeah, including even brewer's yeast, for example. So that's how beautiful lowering our insulin levels are. And then, of course, here we have some, like I said, some powerful man-made alternatives to natural glucagon releasing lifestyles, and that is these new drugs known as Ozempic, for example. What's the other one? Wegovy.
Yeah,
and now they've got so many out because they've got these knockoff brands attempting to lower the cost, making them more affordable for people.
It says, okay, they've ranked, Forbes Health ranked the GLP-1's.
Forbes Health?
Oh, no, they're ranking the places to get them. But you can get them online now. You can just call up one of these websites. This one called row.com. That's the one I was telling you about that popped up. We were talking about it, having a cigar up on the deck, and just from us talking about it, the phone like heard it and gave me a thing for it. Or I had searched it up or whatever, and it's just so weird.
Let you know, hey, here we are, right? Yeah.
Okay, so there's Ozempic, semaglutide, liraglutide,
Wegovy, was it Wegovy or whatever? I mean, so many of these names coming out now, and because of the knockoffs too, because they're making them so much more affordable. This was something that. Also, man, this was designed for the type 2 diabetic primarily.
Yeah, lady does my hair said she couldn't get any. She's diabetic and she couldn't get any because everyone else started taking them. So they had to switch her off the one she had been on for years and put her onto another one.
And, you know, that sad truth of that one was, and that's why you started seeing out so many of these knockoffs coming out. And I was also telling you, I saw that, I was scanning through on a Sunday, and I ran across that, you know, what is it, 60 Minutes. And they presented that's when they presented this to the public, AKA the insurance companies, that the overweight people needed to have the right to this drug as well.
Insurance companies
This is kind of where the law
vouching for it?
At first they weren't. So you say this was for the type 2 diabetic. But these doctors that they had on there, these two doctors, they were trying to convince that, listen, if you have a weight problem, type 2 diabetes is coming. Now, hey, there is some merit to that, but that's not a definite. But here it was to push it. And what these doctors were also pushing, which I could not believe, is that they were actually telling people that it was a genetic predisposition and that it wasn't their fault for this weight gain. And I had a woman on there, and she's crying, and she says, "Oh, thank God, because I thought it was me."
Yeah.
Well, honey, sorry, it is. But
yeah.
But of course, you know, somebody was getting paid at that level of the medical profession to push the narrative. And lo and behold, I promise you, it was probably not even a month or so later, it was becoming available to people with weight issues. And doctors are prescribing this for everything, Cameron. I had one of my patients, this is a true story, goes to the doctor for low T symptoms.
Oh, you told me this.
Yes.
Yeah.
And his wife basically sends him. Doctor tells him, "Oh, no, you don't need that. I'm going to put you on Ozempic because when you lose that weight, that'll increase your energy and your libido." Yeah. So, I mean, everything. You see it also in commercials now where they're saying, hey, this might improve heart attacks, stroke, and
Yeah,
late stage, end stage kidney disease,
it's
right?
like what they're doing is they're taking all of the bad things that being overweight does,
Bingo.
and they're saying
Automatically.
that Ozempic treats all of that.
That's
It's
right.
like
Anything that had to do with weight, right?
Yeah, it's
so
wild.
Again, no clinical trials they speak of, but they put it out there to the public and the media, and everybody goes to their doctor and says, okay, well, I got to have this now because I understand it prevents this, this, and this. And they're going to get to as many people as they possibly can. Because like I said, this drug was designed in Europe, for specifically overweight Americans. And apparently the numbers are 80% of Americans now, adults, are overweight. So you do 300 million Americans times 80% of that. And I believe the Ozempic runs about $20,000 a year. Not going anywhere. Wall Street's digging it. They're all over it. It's going to be here for a while. Oh, dude, before I forget, people, because we tend to forget, if you enjoy this, find something you like, please hit that like button and subscribe so we can hang around for a while. I wanted to mention that because we tend to forget that, dude. Mm-hmm. All right, so let's get that. And if you think about, throw it back out there again one more time, perhaps. So yeah, man, that's where we are.
Well, my buddy, he's kind of crazy and has some extreme views sometimes, but he's like, I think every fat person in America just needs to take it. Screw it. He's like, I don't care. He's like, I'm tired. He's like, they just need to do it. And I was like, well, they're just going to gain the weight back. He was like, well, if they weren't going to gain it back, I think everyone should do it just because get the strain off the healthcare system. I'm tired of paying high health insurance because everybody else wants to be lazy and eat whatever they want. He's jacked.
If it wasn't for the fact that it creates other problems. And,
yeah, I told him that too.
Yeah, and so, let's touch on that. Because also today, we're going to go through some, weight management. We're going to talk about this. First of all, people understand without the use of these GLPs, what I use in my clinic and what is available out there, educate you a little bit on how you can naturally release glucagon yourself and at the same time shut down that insulin. But side effects, like he was saying. So in one sense, we're cutting back the obesity issue, but now listen to the plethora of other problems that come, because I was telling you about my patient, 55-year-old, established businessman. He went in and started a protocol with, I think it was with Wegovy, and within a year he was on 12 meds. Okay, and of course Jeff wants to come on this podcast to tell that story.
So that GLP-1 was the first thing that he took?
Started there.
No way.
Yeah, and started there, and acid reflux, which is also sometimes they kind of correlate together because of the pressure associated with weight gain. So anyway, yeah, so that's a true story. But just to give you an idea, all right? So the first thing and what he developed was the common gastroparesis. One side effect. This is paralysis of the gut. I just kind of wonder how many gastroenterologists are seeing this, right? I mean, I'm seeing it in my clinic and they're coming to me for this, and this is not like my gig. So, and what the protocol for that, for them? We're going to learn what mine is, but so we have paralysis of the gut, which is why people just basically aren't hungry, all right? But other things are going on in that gut, like serotonin, neurotransmitters. 80+% of those are found in the gut. So sadly, now we got another side effect when you're shutting down the function of the gut, being depression, including sometimes suicidal, like as you'll see in the commercials. And what I'm going over here today, just follow the end of the commercial and you'll see where this is coming from. So we have depression. Now we got an antidepressant for somebody taking one drug leading to another. Chronic, seriously chronic. And so with that too, one of the main side effects, of course, with that paralysis of the gut is constipation. Because if the muscles of the rugae muscles of the gut are paralyzed, they're not going to be moving substance through the intestines, and constipation backed up, or else the irritation creating the diarrhea. So, and for some of my patients, it's like back and forth between the two. Now the other one, spooky, is loss of limb. I mean, huh? That's a quick way to lose 40 pounds, lose a leg, right?
Yeah.
Man. And then and again, I saw this one in my clinic too, and that is damage to the perineum, which is AKA the taint, okay, where it's between the butt and the genitals. And one of my patients suffered with this issue, and she could not sit for very long. And so she basically had two choices: stand or lay down, right? And she would drive 45 minutes to my clinic, bless her, right? And the sad truth with this one was she had one doctor, neurologist, who was giving her the option of nipping the perineal nerve, which would mean no sensation whatsoever. Chris, you got something on your mind?
Well, it just got me thinking about when we go up to West Virginia. We watch TV because that's all there is to do. But I see so many daytime, like when you don't watch TV forever and ever, amen, and then you sit in front of a TV, you're like, I told my wife, I said, I can't believe there's this many like commercials about medicines. It's just the whole. That's it. That and attorneys. You know what I mean? And maybe they go hand in hand.
But yeah, because
but it was always
when we were young that we didn't see.
No, and it was always funny to me how they always parade around these great images of grandpa and little children and stuff. Walking in the park and all this stuff. But then at the end, there's always that. May cause you to lose a limb, may cause constant diarrhea, and just like, oh my gosh.
While they're pushing this particular drug, all you're seeing is all the foo-foo and the bright sunshine, and you're really just watching them go through the motion.
We can get out and
your subconscious with what you need to know, right?
You can get out and live again. You can live again.
Yes.
You can live again.
Yes.
But it's that last part where they start talking about all the bad stuff.
If this doesn't get you. And you know what the thing about, we talk about this too, is like there's not really a side effect. I love this one doctor, she wrote in this book, she said, it's not a side effect, it's an effect if you stay on it long enough, people, okay? So yeah, here goes your demise if you don't get off of this. And now here's another one too. So yeah, dude, right? I mean, I wrote about that in the book too. Back when we were young, man, you could, the pharmaceutical commercials, you could 5 or 6 of them in a week, right? Crazy stuff. Now here goes another one though. I just saw this one last night on a talk show. Here's another side effect. Now, reality, I don't know, maybe right there with what we were talking about with how, some of these commercials are coming out now and saying it prevents cardiovascular disease and stroke, right? But apparently the latest one's hair loss, which, boom, now people are thinking, Now I'm personally thinking, when I'm on, down at the beach and I see that hot tub open up and I think, hey, there's my shot, I'm going in, and you get that one guy right ahead of you with that back that looks like a woolly mammoth, he jumps in first. Well, now if he was on that might be a pretty cool move, because I'm not in that hot tub with that hairy back. It ain't happening. But anyway, then boom, this one of late. And of course, this is a patient that's been on it for about a year now. And she's experiencing muscle loss. Now think about it. Eventually, it's got to get into the muscle tissue as you start eating up this fat and you're not putting back in the proper nutrients. Because remember, here again, when we're not eating, where are we getting some of these vitamins, minerals, and other life-sustaining energy foods? So once you start losing that muscle, pal, it's hard to get that back. And she has 2 grandchildren. One is 5, so that's past the stage of picking up all the time. But the 1.5-year-old, she's having a tough time, experiencing a lot of difficulty even going up 1 flight of stairs. So now the issue is, here what she's attempting to do, though, because these things can be addicting to that type of personality, is that she is cutting back but not stopping, because there is that fear of, I'm going to gain it all back, right? Which, over the years, the fad weight loss programs tend to do that. Why? Well, maybe because this little cheat doesn't make you change a lifestyle. So if I'm still eating the same stuff that got me in my issue, but less of it, again, do I still have a metabolic problem like we were talking about? Yeah. So, the change has got to come. And so for some people that I am working with, they're coming to me after they have lost a good deal using this and saying, hey, you got to get me off of this, please. What's my alternative? And there are. And those who are disciplined enough to lose to their goal weight and then switch over to something that's more sustainable and something that's more that's healthy for the body, this is what we're going to hopefully be able to teach today. I want to pass on one more thing, though, before I forget this, bro. This is now being used on children, okay? I saw this on Laura Ingraham on Fox. 4,000 prescriptions for this last year to 12-year-old, teenage below. And the spooky thing is the American Pediatric Association is now recommending this as one of their primary approaches to weight loss in children. But the insert on the medication says not to be used for children.
I'm wondering how RFK, how Kennedy, if he's going to be doing something with that.
I'm hoping so. Now, and because of that, I understand some of the big makers of the popular names are trying to get the new stuff cut out of the circuit. So, their problem initially was that they didn't have enough of it for the overweight people, and that was causing the diabetics not to be able, like your friend, not to be able to get their prescriptions. Well, apparently now they've stocked back up, so now they're trying to cut out the less expensive form. So, I know he's going to have his hands full like everything else, but here again, for some people, it is a go-to way. Sadly, you just have to keep in mind those side effects, pal, right? And are they worth it? So we're going to give that option today because GLPs, these drugs, what they do is they stimulate what's called lipolysis, which is fat absorption, all right? So it's beneficial for the weight loss. And again, like I said, insulin is a anabolic hormone, which means it's going to build up, and in this case, build up fat. So the use of the GLP-1's are to increase the glucagon, which does the opposite, like we talked about. That's the antagonist. So it's a catabolic hormone to break down. Now, so from here, what I wanted to do is I wanted to go into what you can do, what we can do naturally to increase our glucagon secretion, and then therefore decrease our insulin secretion. Now, some of these you're going to be very familiar with because it's old school, pal. Of course, you know what the first one is? Exercise. Now, so we know that most people who exercise tend to not have a weight problem. Make sense? True.
Is there any specific kind that's best, or is it just moving the
No,
body?
like I'm going to talk about here, it doesn't make a difference. Move. Find one that you enjoy, that you'll do often. It can be walking, Cam. Like y'all were talking about your neighbor who lost 100 pounds?
150 pounds, I
150
think.
pounds. And all he did was walk, right?
Oh, I did.
Right? And what did you say, Chris? He, it was...
Lost a person.
Lost the person, and he's not looking for him, right? Yeah, because what's behind him now?
Yeah, that's right.
No, move forward. None of his business. But so that's the beauty of exercise, and just some kind of movement, just walking. Perfect, right? Just do that. Now, it's going to require a little bit of effort. So find something that you love to do and do it often. You and I love the weight training, right? Mm-hmm. So, which is a great way. Another way, fasting. No, and it doesn't have to be one of these multi-long day fasts. Intermittent fasting is a great way to go. I talk about it in my book. Many books talk about it. It's really the natural cleansing process of the body. If you can try to get that meal in between 12 o'clock in the afternoon and 7, when the body's finished eliminating, it's a beautiful thing. That's another way. So see, really anything that kind of gets you into a hypoglycemic level, where that blood sugar's dropping low, right? You're going to increase the glucagon. So, high protein diet. That's primarily protein based. And in my clinic, I've been using that for years, where in the protocol, my patients come in and pick up 3 different forms of protein meals for the day, and they're responsible for 1 4-ounce portion of protein, separate from those other 3. Beautiful weight loss program, puts them into ketosis rather quickly. And again, sustainable. Sometimes after they've been on it for a week or 2, they don't actually want that 4th meal, but that 4th meal is running the metabolism to increase the weight loss. So that's another great way, because again, like I said, anything that we can do to elevate the glucagon, we bring it up, we bring the insulin down. It's not rocket science. It's the way the body works. So we want to try to stay in that. Hey, and what's the other beautiful thing? I got a book here on anti-aging here, and actually metabolical is on the table as well. And in there has a really great explanation of a enzyme known as AMP kinase. And the beautiful thing, AMP kinase is coming through, like in the anti-aging book. Not only when we are increasing the glucagon, we're also increasing the likelihood of AMP kinase. But AMP kinase, it's kind of like the energy regulator of the body, inside and outside the cell. So anytime we get an opportunity to increase this enzyme, we're increasing longevity as well. So it's a beautiful thing. And again, AMP kinase, along the same line. Now this is also where the drug metformin came in and sort of worked along the same line as by elevating the AMP kinase. Again, kind of like the cheating man's way into exercise, if you will. So, but that's what they're attempting to do on the pharmaceutical side to increase the longevity with managing the blood sugar at the same time, right? Okay, but without the positive effects of things like we're talking about, energy and proper diet. So, now I want to get into the natural approach to upping this AMP kinase, increasing these GLPs, and lowering that insulin. That is what I'm using in my clinic, bitter herbs, known as bitters. So the one that most people know that they hear of is berberine. Matter of fact, I even saw the commercial on television for it. That is an example of these bitter herbs. Now, berberine is a good one, but by far there are some that are better in my opinion because they actually affect more receptor sites than the berberine. One of my favorite, feverfew, and then the woodworm, which you and I were talking about the other night. That actually, the beautiful thing about these two, and most bitters are anti-parasitic. So where we have these synthetic GLP drugs, just causing destruction to the gastrointestinal system. Or I got herbs, bitter herbs that actually help improve overall gut health by clearing parasites out of the body. And anytime you have an infection, especially an inflammatory one that just can't get under control, it's a pearl, an old pearl, always think parasites, because these suckers are hard to get under control. They what we call stealth pathogens, which means they're under the radar most of the time. And if you got something chronic, myself included, I had a bad case of styes that I just couldn't get rid of. Turned out to be parasites. Did a protocol to eliminate those, took about 2 weeks, and boom, they were gone for good. And they messed with me for about a year.
Dang.
Yeah. So again, there's our natural way to go. Anything you want to add to that before I go through my clinical approach to all that?
No, covered everything. I think.
I mean, there it is, bro.
It's not complex. Yeah, I mean,
not.
it's easy.
And it's not. Again, it's we talk about this is the same lifestyle, if you will. They do in the blue zones, which is just, again, find something that you like to do exercise-wise. All right,
Pickleball.
Dance.
People are loving pickleball.
Yes.
People are loving
Get up and move. And you don't have to break a sweat to do it. That's the other thing that people need to understand. Sometimes with your AMP kinase, for example, another good point, you actually elevate your AMP kinase in exercises where you don't sweat heavily. So a walk is actually better than the 5-mile run. All right, 45 minutes on the treadmill, not as good as high intensity short duration.
What about scrolling? Is that a good exercise?
You know what? No, sorry, Chris. That one's not gonna. That's kind of like one of our issues there. The scrolling. There's way too much scrolling. You don't see many people scrolling.
That's strolling.
Strolling.
Stroll.
ST. I know.
Strolling.
Did I? Yeah, I know. Did I blurp that one again? Stroll, not scroll. Too much scrolling going on today. Not enough strolling. So low impact, man. Just move, people. All right. So my approach in my clinic when my patients are coming in, they say, "Hey, Joey, doc, can you get me? What can I do other than this? The side effects are killing me." Or I met this goal, now I want off of this stuff. But I'm fearful if I do, I'm going to blast right back up where I was. That's where the bitter herbs come in. Personally, my go-to is from a company out of Australia, again, MediHerb, because they put together a very great product that has 5 of these powerful herbs in one tablet called Digest Forte. Again, anytime if you have any questions about any of this stuff and how to acquire supplements on this program here, and there are the protocols, go to, my via email at info@drjoeyjones.com, info@drjoeyjones.com, or of course you can opine on the website, that's fine too, or www.drjoeyjones.com, and we'll let you know in your area how you can obtain these products. These are usually not sold in stores. These are either in doctor's offices or pharmacists. The other one I use is a product called Berberine Active. MediHerb is so highly clinical trials behind everything that they release. So the documentation of the authenticity of their product is second to none. And that's why I prefer them, because where some products may require half a dozen tablets, theirs will require 1. And again, the science behind it, they're using the most potent part of the herb, which is not regulated in a lot of the herb markets in today. And then the other thing with me, we're going to get this protein-based diet, all right? Lowering our carbohydrate, our glucose load, because that's how we got here in the first place. That's what it is, all right? It's elevated glucose. So we've got to drop that down. And you get to eat protein and fats. And then, of course, like I talked about, that last thing was exercise. Find something you love to do, brother. Do it often, And again, like I said, if you like it, give us a thumbs up. You get a shout out. And I'd like to, that's it, man. It was kind of a skinny today, people. I'd like to close the podcast, though, with a little tidbit reminder that came to me like things do at 3 a.m. in the morning last night. So I had to get up and write it down on my Post-it note. It goes something like this. Remember to always stay consciously aware of your awareness of consciousness. Boom. Only at 3 a.m. I'm going to work on that. Until next time, for Cameron and myself, have yourself a blessed and great day.
So you're not missing one.
There you go. Till next time, everyone.